Chinese EVs are so heavily subsidized, and also present a very serious security risk because they're essentially spy machines on wheels.
What do we have here? More liberals going to China. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we're finding out it's not just Mark Carney going over there. We've got Jean Chretien already over in China. There's also reports of Donald Trump offering up money to the people of Greenland to buy Greenland. Got a bunch of stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we've got this one on the Western Standard. Carney must be prepared to listen to changes the U.S. wants ahead of CUSMA talks. This article goes on to say that basically Donald Trump is forcing Mark Carney here to end the two internet regulation bills passed during the Trudeau eras, the Online Streaming Act and the Online News Act. The Online News Act is the reason we don't have news on Facebook. It would force platforms to pay news outlets sharing content. The Online Streaming Act forces foreign streamer services to dedicate 5% of their revenues to funding Canadian content. It also goes on to mention here supply management. CUSMA and renegotiations here, I don't think is going to go all that well for Carney. That is if he's still Prime Minister by July. We also got this in the news. Minister McDonald to announce federal investment to support halal production. Why? Why are we wasting Canadian tax dollars on this? In other news, we have the Liberals' Pew Pew buyback program here has collected a total of 25 pew pews. They had hoped to collect over 200. Yeah, that's not happening. In other news here, we both got Sam Cooper and Michael Korvig, who was captured in China, posting this. Canada's former PM Jean Chretien was in Beijing Monday to meet with Chinese VP Han Zheng. Looks like a warm-up act for Mark Carney. He's there on a private visit, not officially on behalf of the PM, but one can imagine he'll try to set the tone in discussions to determine the scope of what may be possible at the official meetings next week. Given his close ties to the Power Corporation and the Canada-China Business Council, Chretien served on the board of Power Corporation, which has historic links to the Liberal Party, and his daughter is married to Andre Desmarais, deputy chair of the financial services company. Looks like an effort by certain business interests to deepen trade and investment. Canadians should watch closely what sort of deal-making follows. So let's break this down for a second here. We've got the Desmarais family here, Power Corporation, and he mentioned the Canada-China Business Council. I think it's time to take a gander here at my China section of the chart, now on top of the Liberal Party section here, which is this red area. So this whole section right here is dedicated to China. And what I've done here is taken China, Xi Jinping, and I put United Front Work Department, and then I've gone sideways with this. Which ones are directly connected to United Front Work Department and which ones are not? I don't find a direct link to the Toronto Chinese Community Federation. There might be one, I haven't found one yet, but all these other organizations here, the JCCC, the CTFQBA, the CTCCO, the Canadian Chinese Media News Network, and the Canada-China Federation of Entrepreneurs all have direct connections to the United Front Work Department, which are all linked directly to China. It's a mouthpiece of the Chinese government. And so I've got all this stuff wrapped up in here, as you can see. We'll break down some of that in another video, but he's talking about the Canada-China Business Council. Ironically, it's the one here I haven't broken down yet, but this is the one that Jean Chretien is directly linked to. So no doubt there's something suspicious going on here with Jean Chretien going over there first, his daughter married into the Desmarais family, all those connections. And here's a greasy photo up, grip and grin. Jean Chretien still getting out and about, 90-something years old. These dirty dogs are up to something again. I mean, they're so entrenched with China, it's absolutely disgusting. The Liberal Party are a bunch of traitors. With all this news going on, Venezuela, we've got this housing situation. Mark Carney has time to act. He's going to China on the 13th of January. He has a couple days to act. Do you think he's going to come out with anything? Or is he just going to twiddle his thumbs and then off to China he goes?
So we get into this too. This relationship is complicated, especially over the last several years, but Canada clearly continues, and Mark Carney in particular needs to look elsewhere with what's happening with the U.S. What do you think, and what are the expectations should be for this trip to China?
Well, my expectations are not very great. I think in terms of the U.S. is probably not happy that Canada declared last year that our relationship with China is a strategic partnership. I mean, you know, who are China's other strategic partners? Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, are they also our strategic partners? It's, you know,
mic drop. That's a mic drop right there. Yeah. Is Iran, North Korea, are these our strategic partners?
It doesn't sound good in Washington. In terms of the accomplishments of the mission, you know, you mentioned trade. China's economy is not doing well. So the idea that China would take imports to substitute for their own production, probably not happening. Energy, we hope to sell more liquefied natural gas and oil to China. We just have to get it to Tidewater. Agriculture, China would reduce the tariffs on our canola seeds if we allow China to sell electric vehicles in Canada. But that, for Canada would be devastating to our auto industry because the Chinese EVs are so heavily subsidized and also present a very serious security risk because they're essentially spy machines on wheels. So it would be worse than Huawei 5G, say. And international security, I really don't think we can get China to agree that they won't engage in the extensive espionage they do in Canada, or their influence operations, or their harassment of people in our country. I mean, they already claim they never do that. So I don't really know what kind of progress we could make in security, not to speak of cyber espionage and the concerns we have about China's ability to interfere in our critical infrastructure in time of conflict. So I don't know. I mean, the Prime Minister is going to be there for a good long time. He leaves Ottawa on the 13th. He doesn't leave China for Davos until the 17th. He has meetings with the Chinese president and the premier and various others. But I really wonder if he'll get anything more than promises out of the People's Republic of China from this visit.
He's not going to get anything from this aside from not for Canada. I'm sure he's going to get something going for himself. He's rolling out something there. Would love to be a fly on the wall for that one. And the WF too. I mean, what's he doing over there? Are you getting together with the grifter gang? The WF needs to be shut down.
China from this visit.
You outlined all the different concerns with so many different factors here too. Do you, should one of the other concerns for this as well, with the U.S. and China's relationship clearly strained too, that we risk doing more damage with Mark Carney going to China and possibly with respect to Donald Trump and the Kuzma renegotiations?
Yeah, I mean, if we said to the Americans, well, we could get those Chinese EVs in Canada, and if you don't want us to have those, then maybe you should consider continuing to allow Canada to produce automobiles for export to the United States in southern Ontario. I don't think that would wash with Mr. Trump. He doesn't take well to that kind of coercion. And there's also indications from some elements within Washington that if we were to allow the Chinese EVs into Canada, they'd be stopped at the border if Canadians tried to drive them into the United States. So it does seem to be quite a problematic issue. And I really don't think that we can have a China policy which is different from that of the United States without the United States retaliating against us in the myriad ways that we're seeing they can do that. I really feel that our declaring that we have a strategic partnership with China was the wrong move, and we ought to move back on that.
Yeah, we should, but there's a reason why Carney did that. He's got a plan there. He's working with Xi Jinping. That's why Xi Jinping campaigned for him during the election. He met with Xi Jinping in 2014. Brookfield has a big loan from China. Carney's been meeting with Chinese officials back since the days when he was the governor of Bank of England. He's been making these relationships for more than a decade. Carney's rolling out his net zero agenda, and one of those pivotal pieces is the physical stuff that they need, like solar panels, wind turbines. Those all come from China. That's why he needs Xi Jinping on board for that. Moving ahead, we've got this post here by Mark Goldberg. I thought this was interesting. He's pointing out that Chrystia Freeland still has obligations under the Conflicts of Interest Act, even after leaving office and going over to Ukraine. We have that listed here. So post-employment rules for all former public office holders. No former public office holder shall act in a manner as to take improper advantage of his or her previous public office. No former public officer may act on behalf of person or organization to which the Crown is party. No former public office holder shall give advice to his or her client, business associates, etc., using information that was obtained during time at the government, essentially. No former reporting public office holder shall enter into a contract service with or accept appointment to a board of directors, accept employment offer, etc., or have any significant official dealings during the period of which 1 year immediately before his or her last day in office. So basically, all of these here saying you can't have business dealings that involve, enrich anything to do with being in the government. Somehow I feel like she's already violated this, or she will violate this. I mean, she was already double dipping. It came out that she's an agent of Ukraine while she's in the Canadian government. I mean, she needs to be investigated. Ezra Levant brought this up today. So in reply to this post here from Blacklock's reporter, Chrystia Freeland will be resigning tomorrow, and Ezra Levant saying that's not good enough. Zelensky hired hired her on December 22nd. She disclosed that to Carney on the 24th. Carney knew about this. Most definitely he knew about it. The two of them decided to keep it a secret because they gave $2.5 billion of our money to Ukraine on December 27th. She needs to be investigated. As he says, what was her involvement in that December 27th decision? She needs to be investigated here for fraud, for corruption, for money laundering. This is beyond serious here. We're going to hand over billions of dollars of our money to Ukraine, and then she's going to go over as an economic advisor to Zelensky in Ukraine, and this is decided before that money is handed over? Come on. Also in the news, CTV fear-mongering more Donald Trump. Canada's next. Inuk lawyer says Greenland's sovereignty must be upheld. That's not what's really happening here. What's really happening is Donald Trump is offering the people of Greenland money to join America. Breaking, the U.S. is considering paying Greenlanders $10,000 to $100,000 per person to support secession from Denmark. Look at the numbers of this. I mean, there's roughly 60,000 people. That'll cost them $6 billion. If they offer $100,000 a piece, they could offer them $1 million a piece. $60 billion. America can pay for that. They'll get way more back from that. This guy pointing out the average income there is $59,000 a year, handing them 1 year's salary, $3.3 billion. I mean, there's a price there. I think $100,000 a piece, and you would have more than 50% of the people saying, yes, let's join America. I think this comes down to simple numbers here. I mean, really, do you think the people living here in these cold conditions are going to turn down, say, $1 million a piece? Of course not. Probably 70-80% of the people would say yes to that, if not more. These are not easy conditions to live in, and I'm sure it's very expensive to live there. Importing food, it's not like they're growing oranges up here. Greenland's actually one of the most interesting places I've wanted to go hiking because the landscape there is unlike anything else. It's century tundra land that doesn't have trees that grows there, so it's really hard to live there because most things will not grow there. That's why they survive off of fish. And of course, we got CBC fear-mongering.
Many Greenlanders aren't keen on Donald Trump's interest in their home.
We don't want to be Americans. We are Galashiq. We are Greenlanders.
Greenland is home to over 50,000 Galashiq, colonized by Denmark in the 18th century. In 1953, it formally joined the country and gained partial control over its own affairs. And
what they don't tell you, though, is that it was forced annexation. They changed the constitution and forced them. They didn't get to vote on that. Europe can say all they want. I mean, the people of Greenland didn't have a say back then. Donald Trump is offering them a say with money. Do you want a bunch of money and join our country?
It's looking for more sovereignty.
The people will vote on it.
In a time where we are working towards independence from the Kingdom of Denmark, and we've been working on that for many, many years, I think that it's very common that everybody wants to be sovereign in one's own house, and we really need people to respect that.
When it comes down to it, a country of 60,000, it can't stand on their own legs. They just can't. It's too small. You don't have enough GDP output to be a country. Like, let's get real. The land is so inhospitable that most people won't want to move there. So you're going to have a small population. You really need to be part of another nation. I mean, that's why they're part of Denmark right now. Even this opposition MP in Greenland saying that it should be up to the people. And listen to this. He sticks it to David Cochrane right to his face.
That is certainly the position of most other countries, that what happens with Greenland is up to the people of Greenland, the people of Denmark, to decide on their own through whatever mechanism exists in your laws. But they are talking about in their national security strategy of a dominance of the hemisphere, and saying the president on Air Force One that they're going to have more to say about Greenland in like 20 days and that they would like your territory. So you see no sort of menace in that whatsoever from the president of the United States. No. That's interesting.
Yeah, but you have to, again, remember, what you're talking about is two different things. It's not the territory that is important. It's the people. Mm-hmm. A territory is never granted any powers by international law. It's the people. So again, I'll repeat it once more. Why doesn't everybody just back up for the Greenlandic people to have a dialogue with the U.S. without the press present? Excuse me for saying it that bluntly, but because the press doesn't seem to help at this point. You only seem to make it worse by creating a conflict where there is none, because everybody is speculating. Right now, what I heard from you before was that, well, Stephen Miller says something. Well, Donald Trump, who is the president of the United States, has already said that it's up to the Greenlandic people to decide what we want to do. And what we actually need to do right now is have a dialogue between Greenland and the U.S. without Denmark or anybody else present to figure out what is it they want to do. We're not even there yet because everybody is talking about annexation and NATO is falling apart and all that, instead of actually saying, well, let the Greenlanders decide what they want to do.
This guy just called out David Cochrane to his face for fear-mongering because that's all the media does. They're a mouthpiece of the government, funded by the government. They're not there to actually deliver honest news. You got Juno News posting this, which is hilarious. And Sue Levy writes, "It makes me think Carney suffers from terrible judgment and extreme case of FOMO, fear of missing out, or the narcissistic belief that he is far better than Trump." I really don't know what it is. I mean, Justin Trudeau, Captain Schmuck, like he loved hamming it up. He loved being in front of everything. He was truly a narcissist. He thought he was better than everyone else. Carney's a different beast here. I think he's a narcissist too, but he comes from this globalist banker world. He comes from this level of being in the circles of elite. He knows King Charles well. Him and Diana Fox Carney, all of them, they're all wrapped up. Prince Andrew, all these people. So, I mean, he comes from that world. I don't think it's just narcissism. I think it's entitlement. I think he has a sense of entitlement that he's better. He's better than everyone. He's better than Donald Trump. And as this guy says, yep, Carney is clearly full of himself. The guy never faced adversity or hardship in his life. Yep, this guy doesn't know what a bad day, a real bad day, looks like.